I just moved that towards you.
Yes, I have
Your turning privileges have been revoked.
Shush.
Shush me! Shush me! He says as he pulls. Does this jack while wearing a stripper bow tie? Well, we should probably clap.
Probably.
Hello, we are Adventuresome Reviews, and today we are reviewing
The Wake Up by Angela Panayotopoulos, or some such name. It's foreign, unfortunately, so being American, we're terrible at names.
We're terrible at American names too, so
Shh, they don't need to know that.
I was actually just about to tell them what the book was about, and then I was gonna go and say, okay, and then it's time to do the synopsis. So rather than retreading tread ground, I'm just gonna read the synopsis. Yeah.
A wise decision.
Yes.
I approve.
A modern day Socrates. That's me.
Totally.
What if you could see the angelic or demonic manifestations of people's characters in mirrors? And what if, in your world, this gift was fatal? Since early childhood, Lexi has repressed a rare ability to see. For most of her life, and for most of the people who know her, this is a well-kept secret. Raised by a family of mirror makers, glass blowers, and wolves, Lexi trains herself to see selectively, plagued by her otherness. She comes of age when the nation's leader bans man-made reflective surfaces, plunging the nation into a dystopia where government agencies annihilate families like Lexi's and redraw the lines of normalcy, tradition, and trust. As her family breaks apart, Lexi falls for a man whose secrets run even deeper than hers. Betrayal and deceit ignite dangerous consequences in a world of blurring realities. Caught up in a battle as old as time itself, the last mirror maker must choose between the safety of compliance and the lethal truth that could rouse her world from darkness. The Wake Up is a modern-day parable about love, truth, and self-discovery. It examines how our choices determine the manner in which we live before we die, and how we stop fearing the monsters beneath the bed once we discover them within us.
Altogether, that's a pretty decent synopsis.
Hands down, the best we've encountered.
Tells the story, sets a tone, doesn't reveal too much about the story, which is a despicable practice that we've run into a little bit.
And reading the synopsis, I am not given prophecies from on high that tell me what exactly is going to happen and who exactly is going to hook up with who.
She does tell the ending a little bit, or not the ending, but distant sections of the book slightly.
Ah, there's a head. We don't need heads. Thank you very much.
Anyway, moving on.
It's also backwards.
Yeah, flip that head around if you're going to spook correctly. Here, you help.
Give me back my body. Give me back my body.
Here, let's face you forward. There.
Perfect. Now just sit there for the next 20 minutes.
Very spooky. If we weren't on...
Because people need him.
Yes. Next year, because we're probably going to be on a budget, we'll probably just swap your place with him and, you know. Yeah, you would be an excellent hangman.
If you insist. Okay, where were we?
I completely forgot. That was an excellent distraction.
Yes. I think it was something about the synopsis being great, but not... Oh, yeah, I remember. It does spoil a significant part of the narrative.
I don't know.
Not so much of the conclusion, but...
It tells you pertinent information about the world and the setting of the world. That's
I'm talking about her relationship with the one fella. Doesn't that synopsis exploit that to some extent?
No, it tells you, there's going to be a romantic liaison or whatever in this book, which
That
is...
betrays her and tortures her.
No.
Although that was an earlier version of the synopsis. It doesn't spoil it in this one.
You've spoiled the book! Yeah! You've told them a major plot point! Were you not even
It
listening?
wasn't that major. It was like maybe C scale.
Are you kidding?
I don't even know why I was
It's
complaining
pretty
about
much
it so minor.
the middling climax of the story!
I know, which is why I was complaining about it being in the original synopsis.
You should actually listen when I read the synopsis. This would have happened if you listened to me!
I never listened to you.
I know.
It's dangerous for my health.
But it could be lucrative too. I got this great scheme. I just need a small, really quite insignificant amount of money. And you're the perfect person. Just gullible enough to believe me. What do you say?
I'm a gull, not gullible. I fly like the birds. I visit the sea regularly. And I'm white. Anyway, the story. We were going to say something about it. Probably, hopefully pleasant.
The best book we read / reviewed so far.
Yes. This book was excellent. Strong prose that very, very rarely ventured into the aggrandized or the overbearing.
But it's also strong prose that is
Eloquent
deceptive,
and evocative.
but also kind of deceptively simple.
I didn't think it was simple.
I'm gonna say
sacrifice
never
simple prose.
Yeah, okay. By deceptively simple, I mean it never tried super hard in some.
Yeah, it wasn't overbearing. It wasn't.
It wasn't even like particularly. Oh my god, this is truly fantastic prose, because even that comes to. Like, the prose was great for its efficiency and its evocative nature, not necessarily for the cleverness of the sentence.
There were
the choice
scenes
of
where,
words,
especially with her similes, where she did venture into very, very clear she was trying to be poetic, and most of the time it landed, which is often the difference between good prose and bad prose. Is when bad prose tries to be poetic, it fails by
The only
over-aggrandizing.
stopping it from working is when it doesn't work. Which might seem a bit kind of redundant, but I could explain it, but I won't.
You will have to discern it for yourselves.
Yes.
I thought the characters were one of the strongest parts of the books as well. The main character in particular, obviously because she's the main character, she's the one you spend the most time with, but it's a book that actually delves into her psychology significantly without being hugely psychological in nature, but there was clear emotional the character had the strong emotional and the mental progression in the story that the reader could actually delve into and watch change and expand, and how she interacted with her scene, how she was deeply emotionally attached to these different locations. You could understand, feel, and empathize with that attachment.
The same. I agree completely, yeah? And continue with the characters. A lot of the times, there was not a great deal of quote-unquote effort and time given toward exploring these characters, which is beneficial.
It's done through the story and in their interactions with one another. It is just enough given to provide the context you need to make the assumption. So you
have literally 2 scenes with her father in it, and at the same time you're emotionally attached to her father, despite him not being quote unquote
hugely prevalent throughout the story.
You grow attached to him because of the main character and how she's attached to him.
And oftentimes there is exposition about her relationship with her father, with the other characters, but it's all so seamlessly tied into the book. It doesn't read like exposition. It feels more relevant to the current
Everything
scene.
done character-wise is incredibly elegant, so that even if you just have flashes of a character here and there, so long it's part of her family unit, you have one chapter dedicated to her mother, right? And yet her mother comes across incredibly integral to the story. Maybe not integral, but you know her mother.
Your emotion, you understand her relationship with her mother, and you can empathize with that relationship to some extent.
And you grow attached to a lot of these characters without just reiterating, just a lot of time spent on them. And so, kind of taking a bit of a detour, not necessarily a detour, but moving the discussion along, shall we say, a lot of the characters... okay, so the way the book works is that you have these characters who can see, right? So they look into the mirrors, and then the various people and characters in the story will either be shown with wings or horns, right? And this is kind of a moment-by-moment appearance that changes depending on whether the people and characters in question are leaning more towards their demonic impulses or their angelic ones, right? And so this was probably my second favorite aspect of the story, because whenever the horns or the angel wings showed up, it was an immediate reaction. It's like somebody showed up with wings, and you get this feeling of relief because it's
you know that person is safe.
Yes, or you get with demons, or you see somebody with horns, it's like
puts you on edge.
Yes, and it's dangerous because you don't. It's like because the character's walking this thin line between, because obviously seeing is outlawed and ooh, spooky.
Well, seeing isn't outlawed; it's mirrors that are outlawed and reflective surfaces.
Because basically, that's what seers use to see, right? So
there's shenanigans involved with why it happens in the book, but I don't think we really need to get into that. They just happen.
Basically, but it's also, seers are hunted just kind of low key, right? Seers are.
I didn't get that impression from the book. It was just people who use glass are hunted, or reflective surfaces are.
Because that's what the president. That's what the president's worried about. Is he's not worried about the glass. He's worried about the people seeing his reflection in the glass. Because the president of the United States has very visible horns, right? So this spooks him out.
See them himself,
right? And so this spooks him out. He bans mirrors so people won't see his reflection. So banning the mirrors is just an excuse to hide from the seer. So seers are the kind of danger to his political career, though it's not necessarily a rebellion or anything quite like that. It's just he's worried by them, and he's spooked by them because people see their own horns, and frequently they just get really weirded out, and they often get even worse. And so the reason the wings and the horns just work really well is this is not a happy book. And that works really well for the story because you see horns almost left, right, and center. Not quite.
But and then it should also be stressed that these horns are not the author telling you these characters are bad or whatever. In part because they're not automatically attached to an act of villainy, and they often transition from wings to horns as a character acts.
The main character repeatedly grows horns as she vacillates between
her darker nature, and
it's not even that an incredibly like serial killer as a darker nature.
It's just everybody's darker impulses, and it's also that the wings are not treated as exposition or character description. They are visual representations of what a character is emotionally experiencing at the moment. So they're not easy or cheap, superficial exposition of a scene. They're more a validation.
Yeah, so it's like you have like... And so what just really makes the wings in particular work for me, right, is the book is not a happy one, as I've already stated. And dystopia is a little extreme, because there's not necessarily rampant hunger and desolation running around. It's just a totalitarian regime. And, like, the incredibly nitpicky and small-minded version of myself says, well, things kind of went downhill a little fast. It's like
that's my only real caveat about the book is that
it's his first year of his presidency. He's
managed
bombing
to get
people.
Not only that, but he actually managed to ban a multi-billion-dollar industry without effort. I was like, oh, glass doesn't need anything. All glass companies disappear because I said so. Like, to get our government to agree to that seems preposterous.
And it happened off of one school shooting event. So one person shot up a school and started freaking out over mirrors. The media blew this out of proportion, and the president leapt on it and used that as a way to ban mirrors, which is just...
It's not credible as to get it done within a year.
You might need his entire 8 years of presidency.
And then to manage to replace all the glass surfaces, not only are you destroying your economy, you are financially bankrupting yourself to replace all the glass in 300 million people, homes, vehicles, establishments, restaurants, everywhere.
But that's all that. So that's an incredibly technical complaint that doesn't really pull away from the story too dramatically.
Yeah, it doesn't immensely affect the story, but it's still just one of the things that was constantly in the back of my head. I was like, this really just isn't.
It pushes the laws of belief, but that's literally the only complaint I came up with for the story.
Agreed.
But okay, so back to the initial point I've been trying to make for like 3 minutes now. The wings were...
Feels like an hour.
Well, you can leave anytime you want. I'll do this myself. I will persevere!
I cannot inflict you upon the world solo.
Aww. But how will I take over the world if I can't brainwash the people? I was really hoping you would leave.
Exactly. My noble character would not allow it.
Anyway, you were continuing
call those
for
assassins
3
back
hours.
in. Yes, okay. The wings show up twice, kind of in... Okay, it's like...
They show up a lot more than twice.
Okay, yeah. But 2 moments just really stood out for me, right? And it's because every chapter, almost every moment of the book is grim, depressing. It's you kind of that dystopia feel where nothing is going wrong, and she's walking on this knife's edge of kind of danger, and just the world is constantly getting worse around her, right? But then you have these she has this scene where she finds a sanctuary, and she walks into the sanctuary, and then the wings open up, and it's this. She is safe here. This is sanctuary, and it's the people complement their wings so well in this dark, depressing world where distrust is rampant. You know, secrets are becoming the kind of the byword of the day. You meet this one character has wings, and he's friendly, and he's warm, and he's set up the sanctuary, and he's kind of just almost completely blowing it out. He's an incredibly angelic character, right? And it gets to it's like this one scene gives you hope for the book almost, and just for this and for the characters, and you're just immediately attached to these characters that literally have 1 or 2 lines in the book, just because they evoke such relief, and it's like it's a place where the main character can just be and relax, and it's sanctuary. It's one of the best sanctuaries I've seen done.
I agree with the theme per se. I didn't necessarily I didn't read not read in, but I wasn't as excited or as involved in the wings for that element of the story. In part for spoiler reasons, I couldn't get too attached to the sanctuary.
Okay, so one of the reasons that the wings for me might have, or one of the reasons probably for the book that reworked is,
I'm not saying the wings didn't work.
Yeah, no. Shoot.
He talks for 5 minutes and then shoots me.
It's my prerogative as the shusher in chief. the wings work because you get the impression that she's surrounded by demons, right? And then whenever the wings come on, the author makes mention of how always remember that while there are demons, there are also angels, and this works really well because it's your only breath of hope in this otherwise depressing story.
For me, my favorite element of the wings was for that one character where
he vacillates
constantly. He had the horns and the wings, and that was where the wings were used most excellent.
That entire character was my favorite part of the book. You have this character, and he's balanced between heaven and hell.
Not necessarily balanced between. He's fully in service of hell.
No, but you don't realize that until the end of the book. So while you're reading it, you see this character, and he's balanced between heaven and hell. And you see this the main character, right, is in a romantic relationship with the character, and you see her trying to pull him toward heaven, right? And she's enduring quite a bit of torment, and it's an abusive relationship, not like physical. It's
psychologically abusive.
Toxic, and
it's psychologically abusive.
Yes,
not toxic.
And it's there's a very specific term.
I really enjoyed that element,
and it's done incredibly subtly. It's like where you as the reader can look at it and say, "Oh, that's what's happening here. That's not good." And it's this massive red flag. But against that, the author lays the fact that the character's a doctor, right? And he's working long hours to save people's life. So you have the toxic relationship where he abuses his girlfriend, but you have the other doctor, the kind of angel, where he's working long hours in this incredibly dangerous or in this incredibly dark world to save people's lives. He's the best character in the book. And just their entire relationship is handled really well because the subtlety of how how the author never comments on the toxic relationship. Nobody, not a friend, nobody comments on the toxic relationship. The main character herself never has a massive realize, oh, this was a toxic relationship. So it illustrates how subtle these things can be and how you could fall into this trap as a person yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree.
You should talk a little more.
I tried.
Somebody okay.
Shushed me.
I'm revoking my shushing. Speak! I command it!
I really like the progression of events. It was excellently paced book. From the beginning, it had just enough time to set up the story, to build the attachment in the buildings where you needed to build, through the dark period, and as it got worse and worse, up to that final transition switch, and where it started to uptick again, and as the events upticked, etc., up, and as you go, that progression of events was excellent, simultaneously triumphant and crushing in all the right times and moments.
The narrative, just arc of the book, perfect. Like I said, we really only had that one qualm with the book, which is saying a lot, because we could nitpick. We have practiced nitpicking for close to a decade at this point.
Nitpick. I only compliment, unless insults are required for drastic correction of misbehaviors.
I'm going to have to disagree with that, because no one needs insults more than you, and you clearly don't practice enough on yourself.
You always insult me.
Well, I'm making up for the lack. Here.
You did very good today.
Shut up. I insult, you cut off my hand. Or actually, I compliment you. You cut off my hand. This is an abusive relationship, this is.
No, it's not.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
I was doing you a favor. The hand was liable to get chopped off anyway. I just did it sooner so you could acclimate.
But, we're not necessarily near a doctor or anything, and I'm liable to bleed out all over the floor.
Yeah, you'll live. Any other comments about the book?
I feel there's one.
I don't know. touch upon all the subjects that I particularly.
I
I'm
admit
gonna call it
defeat.
quits. Whoosh. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Arrivederci. That's totally bad, but we will ignore it.
Thus vidania. Fairly well, our present and future friends.
First, though, if you like this, and you think you might have other readers that'd be interested in picking up independent books, share the videos with them. It is the most important thing you will do in your lifetime.
Yes.
President of a country, king, dictator, no. All secondary to this single act of salvation.
Or, commercially, if you just loathe this here display of ours beyond all comprehension, send it to your enemies and make them suffer. It's a great plan B.
Exactly. Reap despair and misery upon the world.
Or joy.
Both are effective.
Yeah.
Toodaloo.